Are at this gorgeous day of fresh plasma in the air. It's crisp. We know we're high up the mountaintop, beyond our beliefs around weather. Just passing on some shares for myself on my, coding of the cold weather. It's like I realize that in the cold, when we go up a mountaintop, it's usually, you're getting in the elevations and you're starting to feel that air very chilly, but it's also rich in plasma. And so we have, plasma's everywhere, but it's like just when we get on the Therify, how the way it's spinning, it's available plasma. Same thing with cold weather. It's available. Even though your blood vessels are essentially constricting, your soul is expanding. So it's like you're shifting from the physical into the etherical. And we have the potential when we are doing our visualizations to access that higher space, right? If we're looking at the elevator up our spine, we know that we're visualizing that's the top of the mountaintop, so there's this beautiful space behind our two eyes of heavenly, existence where when we put that vision in, the tall order is received, or we should say it already is. The creation is there. We're just giving it focus, where we're paying attention and putting our payment of our current into that which we are focused on. So just when it rains, as well as when that's like rich plasma, or when it's chilly out, it's massive gazillionaire current flowing, ready for you to actually make good use of. So today I tuned in the other day, and it was about embodiment and sacred theater. And so we're on stage here, right? We've shown up, we've arrived into these character suits, and we're doing our best to play our best characters. We're learning to evolve our archetypes, or embody each archetype that we're meant to be, upholding. The easier ones are like, if you're a parent, then that archetype of being a mother or father, it's like, okay, like that role has arrived. How you're going to master that archetype. And you may find as you're mastering different archetypes, or you're feeling like even, the so-called aging of going from maiden, mother, crone, you're evolving into these stages, that there's going to be like a knocking at your door for the next archetype that wants your attention. We can look at like, different archetypes of mastering wizardry or sorcery, or, being a god or goddess. All these different types of titles essentially are different archetypes, and they're different suits that we're trying on. They're different characters that we're trying on. The biggest character when we arrive here is the name that we're given. That character's like, you're blissed out God consciousness, and all of a sudden they're like, Susie, and you're like, Susie? Oh, I'm Susie. I better play that part. Mm. And so the name, is that, again, that big identifier, the first character that you have, you are all of it. This is all through you, for you, by you. But in the event that you forgot, you may be thinking, well, who's Susie? So it's these different places that we're going to be looking from the projector. Sometimes we're looking from the projector and we realize that we're sitting at source seat, and we literally are the projector making the projection. And some people, we're not up the ladder yet. We're looking out different door holes. Like, let's say we're looking out the third energy center, where we think that there's power struggles or ego or personality battles. And, they did this to me. And when you forget, like, that is you, there's nobody but you really here at the source seat when you start to understand at the higher levels up the mountain. So sometimes you're going to be in a situation where you've mastered source seat, you're like, who you are as I am presence, as God I am. But the situation has a different agenda for you. You have all of a sudden somebody walk in of authority, or, somebody reminds me of your parent that you haven't seen because you're estranged from them. And you go down the mountain. And you're now back not remembering who you are as source intelligence. You actually are dropping down into the child, let's say, you drop into the child and then there you are in that character suit. And any kind of visceral sensations might come up where you feel, triggers, or you feel like, what's happening here? Maybe your body heat rises, or you start feeling your stomach. Something visceral within the body starts to literally trigger and fire within you. And you may multitask. You may still be somewhat aware that you are source intelligence, but yet you're so anchored down into this lower density experience as the child that you're like, what's going on here? Like, I can't even seem to get my bearings. We've all been there, right? And so today I'm going to go over what they showed me on the board. But when I was first dropped into, I was in my 20s, and I was dropped into sexual yoga community. And we really did a lot of practices with sacred theater of being able to try on different aspects of, like, say, the shadow or the wounds with a cast of characters of loved ones that would help us move through these types of situations so that we could viscerally move them out of our body instead of repressing them and not really getting to deal with them super consciously. And when I say super consciously, I mean with a group of gods and goddesses who got together to help you process through that shadow. And the other way that happens is you just are in life. Like I said, you're at that situation, the guy walks in, looks like your dad, and you're like, oh my God, my stomach's hurting. Or the body starts literally showing you that deep down in your subconscious fascia, there is still unprocessed records or information around your father because it's shown up. And even for some of us who've done all sorts of work, like you've mastered your father, you guys are good now. There still could be a situational or a timeline, meaning when you turn 49, that something specific is going to occur that still was waiting for that moment in time to rise its head out of your tissues. So when we are in, this beautiful experience we call soul school, we can do practices like what I'm going to bring up today, but it helped me by doing these type of sacred theater practices so that when I did go out in life and those situations do arrive, I'm like, character, let me cue. I'm going to play the child really well. And I say that because even though you may viscerally have this inner child gut feeling come over you because the father walks in the room, it's not always for you. Sometimes it's because it's for your father, or it's for that other guy that walked in that looks like your father, and he too, you're the right makeup, you're the right resonant match of a soul to help them act out and complete whatever that situation was. So when we can character and role play, we really find the beauty of us walking each other home. And we can drop out of these like blame games and realize, wow, there's just going to be certain things that are still going to happen that are part of your spiritual growth. And you can have more fun with it when you take the blinders off of what I'm talking right now and really say, oh, wait, there's still may be a few more of these to occur. And I can actually drop into character more. So I find that helps me, that when the situation arrives, I still feel the trigger. I still can multitask and know that I'm source intelligence, but yet I'm dropped down to this little child self. But I can deeper drop into character and really almost exaggerate what little me needs to say. And you will find, again, that the whole experience illuminates. So the Holy Spirit literally comes undone and opened like a Hollywood Bollywood movie in India, where everybody then drops into character because you're aware and you're dropping deep in, and then you start to see how this huge tapestry of others are actually part of your sacred play to evolve and again help that move, because we want these energies that are deep in the fascia that we would call shadow or, these triggers, we want them to actually be fully processed. So that dormant energy that literally gets stuck there sometimes because maybe you don't have someone to role play with, or maybe you just keep getting triggered and you can't even remember what the heck's going on when it happens because it's in your household. And so it just keeps getting further repressed and pushed down, and then becomes a pattern in your life that you just can't seem to get out from, because it's like it keeps happening. Well, yeah, it keeps happening because we just keep memorizing it and we don't fully process it. So the anchor of it, literally, unprocessed, repressed emotion, is anchors in the fascia. They're like bound up plasmoids holding information. And if you don't healthily process them, then they just get bigger and bigger and hang on deeper and deeper, which then creates a heavier pebble in the pond for yet another one to show up on the next, let's say it happens every October 1st. Whatever those characteristics are, those commonalities of that brings it about. So there's something about that, just how it opens up in the field. You're able then, when you can do this experience in this way, you're able to not only evolve you and the other, but the whole group. And you actually then see, as you're sitting there and this starts to experience, integrate, and those light particles go from a heavy, dense energy, you're processing it, even if it seems like you're heated, right? You're playing the child and you're like telling them off for invading your boundaries. Because you're so aware, that energy starts to rise up your spine and illuminates you back at source seed. And again, you start to realize that everyone was there waiting for you to do that. Everyone's here for you. Like, we're all here for each other today to act this out. And each time we act it out with more awareness and at our best, we then graduate and start to lift the planes of existence to rise into higher planes to heaven on earth that actually gets to be experienced for longer plateaus. So we're building new world, and it's a beautiful thing. Anything to say, because then I need to do a little clearing because I can see it moving a lot of energy with you all. Anything that you want to say or share or question before I do this clearing?
I can always share.
Yeah.
So I've had this weird, like my neck keeps going out right here, like for a few weeks now, and it'll kind of, I'll sort of get it to go away, but then it'll come back, and so it just sounds like what you're talking about. And this morning, I kind of got it like, okay, this keeps coming back, and so I asked if I needed to do the app, and I got yes twice, so I did the 2 automatic readings. And then right now I'm asking again, and I got the 2 automatic readings, cleared it on the energetic level, but it's still like I need it to be cleared. I just need it to be worked out on the physical level, but I am getting a massage and adjustment after this. So I'm like, okay, well, hopefully I finally did the app for it, and then the work I'm getting after will clear it.
And do you know what it's about?
Well, this morning I was just thinking, like,
Ask what it's about right now.
I've got, it's like throat chakra and right side, which is like more masculine. And I did have a conversation with my partner this morning, just about wanting more time together, and like just it being challenging to speak my truths and ask for what I want, like just that vulnerability of really like opening up to your partner and asking for what you want or what you need. And so I don't know, maybe that's
and
what
is
it was.
Yeah, and is that it? Ask within. Is that it?
And yes.
And is that complete?
Yeah.
Okay, great. And you were able to talk to your partner?
Yeah, it was funny because he had like a really bad dream that he woke up out of, similar to around the time when I was kind of identifying it. And when he woke up, he kind of like was still in the dream, like he thought it was real. And then I was in my emotions, so we came together and had a conversation that helped both of us.
Right.
So that was pretty cool. Yeah.
Great. Thank you for sharing that. And is there anything else, can you ask within, is there anything else that we need to do for you right now?
Just hold me in the light.
Okay. And is everybody willing to do that?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just going to hold you in the light. And then just bring your energy back, take a deep breath. When you feel right and ready, we'll open our eyes. Good. Anything to share? That you don't have to, I just want to make sure I give you space. Thank you. Anything anyone else to share that you're being asked to share?
I just want to remark on what you mentioned, that when you see this thing happening, like everything lights up. I could see that and feel that when you said that. I'm looking out there because it made me think of something that happened earlier, and I felt like, oh yeah, it's like it illuminates it for you to look at it even more clearly. It becomes almost like a still point for a second.
Yeah.
So thank you for saying that in the language you did it.
And that's the key, is to find out in the moment that it's happening. Are you meant to, there's several options. Are you meant to hold the witness and just, you're maybe not to interact, but just to hold space? Because that in itself is for you, but it's also for the other, because they get to go through whatever they're going to go through. So there's witness. Second option, are you meant to drop into character? Is this something for you that is highlighting now character? Could be a wife, right? Is it also, 3, is it dropping into character from another aspect of yourself, right? That'd be like the inner child. Yes. And they could couple, right? All 3 of these things could happen in an experience. But speaking just to like a wife and an inner child, you could realize that this experience is happening for you as the role and archetype of wife, but yet you and your partner are acting something out from an aspect of your inner child that didn't get to work itself out. And the husband and partner, is holding that space to be the character of the play. And it couldn't even be, it could be anybody, just someone holding that masculine energy, a friend, or anything that's holding that in that moment that has that connection to the inner child. And if you got yes to act into character, the character may be to get to fully process what you didn't get to say. Now as a wife, or now as an inner child that didn't get to say something to the masculine energy. So again, this is a lot of inner work in the sense, or an inner ability to be asking these things, or you could be muscle testing, or you could be like standing, asking questions. Do I see something right now? You could just go off your Holy Spirit's just going to like have you go through the experience. It's just going to, there's no time. It just happens. But if you are getting that you need to say something, it may be that you just say it fully, but you're aware, right? You are super consciously going through the shadow dance in the moment, super conscious and aware that that's what you're doing. You're fully processing the energy, and the other is your divine partner actually playing a part in your play for you to get to do this. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So that may just occur, and then I'm going to add another, and I'll make a little chart for this later and send it to y'all. The step 5 would be sometimes the other actually is super conscious themselves. And you may ask them, look, can you hold space for me? You're actually, this is all happening for me, through me. But it really is about my father. can you just hold space and like hold the energy of my father and not say anything, but let me get this out? And then you get to role play and have a experience, a sacred theater with the other, and just let it come out. And if they can hold space and you remind them, look, you don't need to say anything. You just hold space. There may be something that they're guided to respond back to you as a role play, but just you getting to express that will help transfigure that dormant energy and let it rise and then start to be used, as the Ida and Bengala rise the Kundalini at the base of the spine. Well, it's also going to rise out of the organs that it's sitting in. So like a lot of times we store all this energy, like in the kidneys and the ovaries, the gonads, the adrenals, usually below the heart. A lot of the times, of course, there's going to be stuff stored in the thyroid and parathyroid, but these energies get stored from not being able to get acted out and fully processed in a way that validates our experience, because, I'm definitely one that's like, peace, love, dove, like no confrontation. But yet that, really put a damper on my thyroid through the years. So being able to do that with others in a sacred theater format. And then lastly, you can always, do it to the mirror, do it to a pillow, but getting to go ahead and fully process that. So we're going to do an exercise with that, but let me go over this board that came to me. And this is quantum activation on. We have our embodiment that, we'll do this. We came here, like I said, to be our best, to arrive in this theater experience, to be our best and do our best. And some of the roles that you dropped into, like I said, as your name is first and foremost, and then you drop into a child, and then you keep growing, right? And so all those things you've signed up for in this experience. And as you are dropping in, let's say this sun is the I am presence. The light that you are, again, is much bigger than this body, but yet it's going down into this body. And as it goes down into the body, I spoke a little briefly about the Ida and Bengala. So you have this 3.5 spiral of energy called the Kundalini, and it's dormant typically at the base of your spine. And that 3.5 spiral of energy that's dormant is like waiting for your full embodiment. And it doesn't necessarily have to all come undone at once. Sometimes this comes undone in sex. Sometimes it comes undone in yoga and meditation. Sometimes just spontaneous. Sometimes on the therapy table. But yet this energy is like this powerful energy that really wants to come undone so that it can rise all the way back up the spine and open up the 1,000-petaled lotus at your pituitary and pineal and thalamus, those triple jewels. As that energy gets to come all the way up, it just, wow, and it opens for our enlightenment. And when we are doing super conscious practices such as meditation, breath work, yoga, etc., this is a natural occurrence. This bubbling of energy starts to come up. But as it's coming up, you also, like I said, have stored energy, especially in these lower organs. These are like your kidneys, gonads, ovaries. Some, the gonads are are outside of the body, and they're actually the same thing as the ovaries, are just inside the body. So it's the same organ, just different position. And then you've got your adrenals, your thymus, or excuse me, your thymus, then thyroid, pituitary, pineal, thalamus. So all of those could also be storing a lot of this energy that sometimes it's trying to go all the way up, but yet it can't yet because there's still stuff for you to work out. So you come down into this experience with this Akash that has certain information in the field that's going to come undone at a certain moment in time because you didn't necessarily have it fully get undone in the field, because you're not just in this body. Remember, you're all of this. So it starts to want to rise up your spine, but yet it clicks off a Akashic record in the field that needs for you to fully process it. sometimes from another lifetime, sometimes from earlier childhood or some, early experience this lifetime. But whether it's outside of your body, and we call that like a plasmoid, or it's inside the body, stored in these organs or stored at the base of the spine, that energy can sometimes feel like you're taking 10 steps backwards. When you're like blissed out, you're like having this amazing sexual experience or this amazing, yoga, meditation. And then all of a sudden, wait, fever, chills, a weird experience with somebody or several weird experiences. So we just want to understand that these are those times that we could really start to bring in our sacred theater and not repress it or turn away from it, but go, oh my gosh, this is actually probably the biggest gifted moment I could ever come upon. And how we're going to address that is all kinds of different ways. Sometimes it's rest. Sometimes you're laid out flat on your back for a while. Sometimes, you're, who knows? You feel like you've got a clearing or a cold. You're really clearing some deep energies. So as you're coming down, right, we descend and then we start to ascend. We seek the light again. We seek to be the I am presence. We're like, oh my gosh, wait a minute. I'm not this name or this number. I'm actually the presence. So whether you're descending or ascending or even ascending, what I like to call the Adi technique, which is ascend, descend, and ascend back into the heart, at any level of these experiences, you may find what we would term a dark night of the soul, or a heavy experience, or a cold, or you name it. But it's these moments that are literally holding that information that wants to be fully processed.
Could you say that one more time? The ADI, Adi.
So the Adi, to ascend, descend, and ascend. Because even when you go to fully ascend and you're reaching this enlightened state, you think, oh, I'm going to be on the mountaintop the rest of this, or I'm going off the grid. How many of us have done that? And they're like, nope, you're going back down. You're going back down more embodied than you've ever been. You're going to play some characters again. So you descend back into sometimes New York City, who knows? Like, wow, what's happening? Circus. Because you still have some characters to play, not only for yourself, but for the collective.
So when you're in the ascend, because I've never heard of that, is that like kind of like when you're doing both?
Could be. Yeah, I mean, it's just for what I have downloaded back in the day was just that it was like we were going back into our heart. So the Interstellar book came out, right? So like we thought it was all out here, but actually it was about coming back inside here. That all this out here actually is inside here. And the entry point is to come back in through the heart. And then you open back up inside to the true absolute. And then you start to realize that actually this world is just, again, the projection of like the law of correspondence. Everything that's going on inside is actually outside.
Well, it's really interesting because last, I don't know, 10, 14 years, I've kind of like been isolated in my space, but I also go out. So I'm just wondering if that's kind of like what I've been doing is doing both and go out, live whatever it is I have to live, and then come back in and regroup and the balance.
The balance and just, going with that flow, right? Being the presence, being the love. Because it's not just the one thing. You don't just go up the mountain and you're done, right? It's just this natural ebb and flow that you're going to be asked to do because you're all of it. Okay, so this chart I just wanted to go over and then we're going to do practice. So this is your current reality. And this is, your desired. Or this is, who you are now. And these are your desired states. These are your highest and best timelines, your highest and best visions, your highest, goals, aspirations, etc. And when we embody, meaning when I can close my eyes and I can see, let's say it's something, a state of being that I want to be, I'm the most healthy, wealthy, magical being that I am. And I know that's who I am. When I'm sitting in meditation and I'm closing my eyes and I feel that energy coming through me, let's say there's some things involved in that, you know, that go along with healthy, wealthy, and magical. So I might see some visions. That happening inside of me, I'm embodying it. It truly is who I am. It is my highest state of existence. Now, when I open my eyes and those things aren't fully manifest, and I see again one of these current realities, and it's like, okay, I was just blissed out behind my two eyes. And then I open my eyes and this thing just happened. You know, what's going on? These are the moments that if we're looking at this, we would want to say we could just do this straight line and jump there and be the embodiment. I just saw it behind my eyes. I was doing breath work. Man, I'm this. And you walk out. But what happens is it's this to get all the way there. So much energy, meaning you just, this first light that you came in and you've been, you know, here for 40 years or so, you started doing all this work on yourself. And so now you're not only walking as your soul, but now you're walking as your higher self. And maybe even you're walking as the oversoul. This energy of you, the packet widens, the light, your literal central channel. Like when we do our, you know, Reiki attunements, we go from a chord to a channel. The channel widens every single attunement until all of a sudden you become the whole plane of existence. And so as you're widening, you're clicking off these plasmoids. You're clicking off these things that need to be dealt with. And that's where you dip. And so you've got so much light in for good reason. It's actually highlighting that deep cavern that's ready for you to either, like I said, some of you are going to do sacred theater. Some of them, you're just going to, like I said, meditate or sleep for 5 days or, you know, who knows, maybe a month. You're out. You're in the cave and you're in the dip. And you're in the dip so that you can process and deal with all of that and integrate all that dormant energy that's been sitting in your kidneys from fear, eons of fear. This whole incarnation, you know, for most people, this whole incarnation was choices based off fear. I mean, that's a lot of dormant energy sitting in those kidneys that is like ready to be utilized. It's magical currency. It's magical money. So we just want to remember that, you know, we called them thresholds a few months ago in class, where it's like we're blissed out, we're embodying that which we know that we came here to do. You know, you may even get, like, let's say you're working on money and wealth, you get this huge sum of money, and then something comes up, you know, and you're like, what? I didn't write that into the script. You know, maybe we shift that program a little bit. But yet it's there for good reason. So if you can multitask and know that you are the presence and that you just brought this up, meaning it's being projected by you. So you brought it up, you projecting it, it's happening. So why? Like, why did you literally have this shadow of the past? Because, you know, essentially everything out in front of you, here's your pineal gland. You know, this is the future, comes through this present moment, and then essentially this is all a shadow of the past, what's in front of you. This is all the past, this is all the future. So if you're literally, a little sacred relocation, we almost got all these guys out of here. I haven't seen it in a while. Little gnat, you can't see it.
Yeah, you're talking about plasmoids. I'm like, I didn't see you draw. They're so little, I don't see them.
But this experience just came to you. You know, you can ask yourself, you know, you just manifested a sum of money, let's say, and then there's this so-called statement. They call them bills, but they're just statements. Anyways, I always got to tie all that stuff in. You don't owe anything. This is all your playground. But anyways, this statement comes and says you owe the amount that you just got and you've been working on it, and it wasn't part of your goals because you were going to use that to put a down payment on your new house. But yet you called it in. Like, this is your experience. And it's literally showing up right here, out in the gross matter and what we would call the past, because it's out in front of us. So you ask why. And a good question, like I said, would be is what's right about this? So when so-called things seem like dim and gloom, like what's right? Why am I projecting this right now? And because it's the shadow of your past, it's not real in the sense that in the next moment you could close your eyes, you could say what's right about it, and say, they're going to tell me that I don't own that. And you then tell this to yourself that something's going to shift, or you ask your super intelligence what's right about this. You get the download. Okay, well, let's upgrade this now. You see the upgrade up and you upload it and you open your eyes and they say, oh, actually, this is not true. And it goes away somehow. That's you being able to multitask at high levels while these shadows of the past are happening in front of you. Some of them you're going to use for your best good in the sense you're going to get to process repressed emotions and things in your tissues. Some of them you're going to instantly get the download, upgrade it, and make things shift right in front of you. Yeah. And so those are the moments you just surrender it, right? And you process it and let the emotion come out, let the emotion move. And then once you let that process, that energy does, those little particles that were charged, let's say negatively, they positively charge because you start to process them. They literally go up the mountaintop and it gets cold out. Literally, you'll walk outside like, why is it cold out? Well, I just processed all this energy. And people are like, oh my God, it's like cold out. And you're like, yeah, I just processed a bunch of energy with my group. Like, anyways. You just surrender it, you process it, and then there'll be all this like hindsight, wisdom, clarity. Oh, right. Now you have space to ask, what's right about this? Where did this begin? What's the conception point of this? Was it this lifetime, another lifetime? Oh, it was another lifetime. You get any more details, then you can have, once you get those who, what, when, where, why, you can have some clarity of like, wow, that's been like etched in, patterned for so long. No wonder that always is happening. Or even if it's like a brand new pattern with the 50-50 in and out. Oh, that sounds interesting. 50-50.
Yeah, it did.
Then you may want to examine, is there any unconscious belief systems that I have that is making this so? It's making me think of one that I recently had to recode where two of them. One was we're all held in the light and we're here by choice, in my opinion, because we're coming here for spiritual mastery. We're coming here to learn how to master the energies of everything we're not. This place is everything you're not. Until you make it everything it is for you. You're here to master that. And that's what an ascended master is. You've ascended, but yet you're still here. You're holding the most high. You're holding that highest version. You're holding the codes and the keys of eternal consciousness, of eternal soul consciousness. And you're here to then shed light on those for others and to sing that song in the grocery store. To, whatever that sacred theater moment is, to hold that space. So singing. And to just complete what I was sharing, when you find the pattern that wants to be rewritten and uploaded into a new pattern that's going to be serving you and hopefully serving all, it's great to add that in, like that all win. Everything works in your favor and everyone's favor, right? There's no competition with everything working out for everybody. But realize, the only thing that's keeping your life from being at the most high in this experience is, a lie away, a belief away. So it's about you really taking ownership of what are you really believing. And some of us will say, well, I don't believe that. Why did it happen? Well, again, we can do all the who, what, when, where, why, but we can also say, do I believe that it could happen? Sometimes just the belief in these things that it could happen to someone else that keeps that alive. So you have the opportunity to keep up leveling these beliefs, these codes, these programs. So I want to do, what I have here, master presence, self-worth, and self-love. Like this is truly what we've come here to do in this embodiment. And when you've done this, that's what you know, that you have permission. So give yourself permission to recode. Like some people, I don't know if I'm allowed. It's like, well, you are. And so anybody who has that unconscious, subconsciously that you need to clear or dissolve, dismantle, delete any programs that says you are not allowed to go ahead and program your reality, release all that.